On this episode of AV Week, what areas integrators need to focus on to help their business, supporting enterprise customers, and looking at which trends in UC are going away and which ones are here to stay. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 468, recorded Friday, August 7th, 2020. Win-win.
AVNation is brought to you by Shure, Sound Extraordinary,
and by Crestron.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Victoria Ferrari, technically from Texas, but she works for my friends over at Conference Technologies. Welcome, ma'am.
Howdy. Happy to be here.
Howdy. I like that from, Texas thing. So, Sharath Abraham, the last time we talked to him, he worked for Crestron. He no longer works there, not because of anything animosity, but he went to work, for the biggest integration firm in the world, AVI-SPL. Welcome, sir.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
Absolutely. And last but not least, I got to meet Nick Burton through my friend, Chris Netto. He works for Starin Marketing. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you can actually, not just not for nothing, but you can check out Chris's conversation every single Sunday morning. By the time this posts, it'll be, 6 days away. But check out the hashtag AV in the AM every Sunday morning. And actually, all three of those folks chime in, and I sit back and I read the smart people's stuff. So. First story up today is from our friend over Craig McCormick over at Commercial Integrator. Craig recapped Enterprise Connect's conversation from this week. Enterprise Connect, typically the end of March, 1st of April, just like every other event in the world, it has gone virtual. Sorry, folks who are waiting for DSE, but they started talking about the transformation in the UC space and where we're going to see kind of the next generation. And Sharath, I'm going to start with you on this. When they start talking about, and they're starting to talk about the trends in the UC space, the trends in unified communications, collaboration, video conferencing is kind of wrapped into that. Team connections and team communications is wrapped into that. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing that are, I guess the first one we'll look at is the ones that are here to stay?
Well, I think one of the biggest trends is nothing's going to change in regards to virtual meetings, right? And we always talk about hybrids and how quickly we're going to get into this hybrid of people going back into the office and people working from home. I don't think anyone's going back into the office anytime soon because organizations are starting to find out, or at least for the organizations that I've been involved with, that you can do a lot working from home and you can do a lot from virtual meetings. The only aspect about that is the people working from home, they're going to need all the products that they need to be successful during a virtual meeting. So I think HR departments are going to change a lot because usually when you hire someone new, you get like this welcome kit. The welcome kit's now most likely going to include a high resolution camera or an audio system or something that involves to make your working from home life easier. Because if we think about it, not all of us are in the AV world and not all of us know what piece to buy. For example, my wife is in fashion. I think I mentioned that before, and she was furloughed for a while, but now she's back. And now she's back to having back-to-back meetings. And then she's like, "Can I have your camera?" And I'm like, "No, get your own." So it's a lot more of that aspect is that trend is not going to change. And then I don't see that changing anytime soon because everyone's been working, who has been working constantly with virtual meetings. Now, the funny part was, I watched the new Beyonce video thing on Apple TV, and then I watched that, and then what I do is I Google people that are involved with these things, and then one of the songwriters is not Nija, who's on the song called My Power, and I started Googling her, and then I ended up on a YouTube video with her being asked questions about how she's been recording songs or songwriting during COVID, and she says Zoom. I've been using Zoom every day to collaborate with all the other songwriters or collaborate with Beyonce or collaborate with Jay-Z. And then she says it's a different type of environment, but when I have a creative moment, I go into Zoom and I call some person because I don't want to forget at that time, what I'm writing my song. So you start to think outside of the box of offices. You start to think outside of the box of meeting for, the world. If you start thinking of other industries like songwriting and music, this is where we're coming into play, where everyone's working from home that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria Sharath brings up actually a really good point that we've covered a couple different places and other panels have as well. We're recording this on Friday. Our friends over at SCN just did the ITAV Summit, the AVIT Summit yesterday. A number of really good panels there talking about who's getting this stuff, right? Sharath mentioned HR, making sure that they have the right gear. Google has said that folks aren't going back to work until probably July of 2021. Twitter famously said, y'all go home, you don't have to come back at all, here's $1,000. Who are we targeting as commercial integrators, right? Folks who have experience doing this, we're experienced in the UC space, and that path, that sales path, right, used to be pretty well known. You'd contact the facilities manager, the CIO, the CTO. Now it's targeting each individual people. It's targeting Sharath's wife, right, to get that quality, high quality, commercial gear into people's home. How are we going to navigate these new sort of residential waters?
Well, I think still the IT department is trying to wrap their heads around how they're managing all these devices, how are they safely, having these video calls, and, for a corporate environment, it's still, there's still all of those same factors. And in fact, it's even more difficult now because you have all these people in their home Wi-Fi, and, with all these random peripheral devices that may or may not be officially certified for their platform, backend platform, like Teams or Zooms or whatever, Zoom or Cisco or whatever. So I think at this point, it's kind of just like, a mad dash. People are buying stuff on Amazon, or people are, trying to find whatever cameras in stock and just going with that. But at some point, that's got to be reined in. And so we will still be, targeting the IT department. And then also, even better, if you can get higher up and go to an executive level and start meeting with the CIO and say, here are some really good ideas on how you can deploy this properly, securely, have consistency across your workforce. So there's value that we can add there, instead of just selling onesie-twosie cameras here and there. So.
All right, very good. Nick, Sharath gave us the which trends are sticking around. Which ones are going away that we've we've let ourselves kind of get into? Maybe we've gotten complacent, or just a trend simply that is not going to stay around in the hybrid work from home, work from the office environment.
It's a great question. I think, Sharath and Victoria both had great points, and I think it's all about, this all goes into business efficiency and continuity, and also, putting things in place that, Victoria made a great point about that seamless experience, that consistent experience. And I think you're going to see, instead of that free for all type grab, we're going to start seeing that consistency come back into, like, for Zoom, for instance, who takes the time to certify partners and certify products and manufacturers. And, that's a great point too, on the higher level of things, on the executive level. If they're getting good experiences from the products, that are going into their home space, right? That's going to trickle down throughout the company or the organization. I think there's a couple challenges, and I think what's going to go away is kind of the lack of internal communication that happens a lot. So it's really based on getting, that solution in there that's going to allow you to communicate efficiently internally, and then also communicate efficiently externally with clientele as well. So I think there's a lot of stickiness. There's a lot of things going away at the same time.
Yeah, I think it depends on which field you're talking about, because for colleges and schools, their budgets have gone up for hybrid environments and getting cameras and speakers and up-to-date audio for professors and teachers to kind of teach. For corporate environments, their budgets have gone down because you're no longer really using the larger boardrooms. They're rethinking how to use these spaces. So I think larger boardroom spaces where you can fit 20 to 30 people, that's being envisioned totally by architects and everyone that had planned for that. So it depends on which vertical we're talking about, because everyone is in a different boat. For smaller companies, they now need to be more agile with how they spend their money. So if they only need 5 users that need 5 Zoom accounts and 5 headphones, but then they have a growth because of business growth and they need to add more, so they can add more services as they go. So it's not one stop shop of trends that are disappearing. It depends on which vertical we necessarily discuss for that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Speaking of services, actually, our next story comes from us from our friends over at AV Magazine, talking about AVI-SPL and their new program. AVI-SPL has launched an enterprise accounts management program to implement, standardize, and enhance workplace collaboration across organizations. The new program is modeled on the company's award-winning global accounts management program. The enterprise accounts management program will provide designated customers with exclusive teams who will guide the establishment of enterprise-wide AV and UC standards. We'll also curate and guide planning around technology road mapping, project deployment, management, and priority service management. Victoria, I want to start with you on this. I'm lucky enough to have Mr. Mark Coxon on a panel I was on a couple of weeks ago with our friends over at PTZ Optics. He made the comment about making sure that that his customers have what they need, right? Maybe today they don't need a new conference system. The illustration he was laying out was they just needed bodies and they needed some smarts for the next month or two. And so what he did was that he has folks, some of his team, kind of embed with his clients and his customers, and they're there to offer support, but also offer man hours when needed. A program like this, is it a way to kind of get yourself almost ingrained and ingratiated into your client and into their culture?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds really awesome. It's it's more, a lot of integrators have for a while offered what some of them call a white glove service, where instead of the company going out and hiring a couple AV guys or whatever, they'll just have one of your people on site at all times, and that guy becomes your AV guy. And I think even Chris Netto did that for a while for an end user. So this, though, seems to be taking it a step further and looking at the big picture, and not just having an AV guy that's going to go into every room and fix problems and stuff. This is helping them come up with their workflows and having them understand what their needs really are, and then helping them to adopt the technology and change the technology as trends change, as their workflow changes. So, and that's definitely, something that I like, that, all the fancy words that AVI-SPL puts on these things, but to actually execute it and make it happen and put a price on it, it'll be interesting to see how many integrators can actually pull something like that off the ground. And if anyone can, AVI-SPL's got the resources to do it.
Well, absolutely. And Nick, Victoria actually just set me up really well for my next question to you. You guys are a distributor, and distributors over the last, let's say, 10 years have evolved from just being more than a place you can get a display and a projector. You guys have developed solutions. You've developed, not just Starin specifically, but other distributors as well, have developed services, whether it's programming, design services. Some of them are even starting to offer subcontracting for labor. Is this an area where you can help those integrators who maybe don't have the resources of an AVI-SPL, but they have clients who certainly need it?
Yeah, not only, so just speaking as a whole, obviously I can always speak for Starin, but I think not only is it something that from the distribution level should you be able to help with, but I think it's vital for you to be able to offer that to help with. It kind of goes back into what things are going away, or what trends are going to start, that we haven't really seen truly adopted in the industry, and that's really as a service. And that's kind of, where this is shifting into. So I think it's up to, on some of the agile distribution level of things to implement some of those services and allow our channel partners, and that takes a lot of enablement as well. And I think it's going to definitely be something that is going to be in the suite of offerings, and it won't just start and stop with Staren. It's something that we are actively starting to do with Haas, and you mentioned the installation services and support and things like that. That's definitely high up on our list to start allowing our channel partners to take advantage of for their customers.
Yeah, and for those of you who are not yet familiar with the Haas, that is the hardware as a service as opposed to software as a service, and of course Joe Way's favorite, AV as a service. So Sharath, will end with you, not for nothing, but you work there. Not that Sharath has anything to do with this program. I want to make that clear going out the head.
No, not at all.
But you do come from Sharath did, I mentioned at the beginning of this, he did come from manufacturing, right? He worked for Crestron, and now you're with AVI-SPL. From both of those angles, I'm certain that you talked with your fair share of tech managers, because when I was a tech manager, I was one of the yahoos who would call you and not scream at you, but just I was irritated because my touch panel wouldn't do something. But you're looking at that and going, giving the client and giving the end user kind of that buffer between the manufacturer and the technology, giving them the ability to kind of walk through this and really help them out as they're not only using it today, but also giving them the ability to kind of future cast and help them in that area.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to make it as simple as easy to understand, it's like you go to your favorite bar and your bartender just knows what you want to drink, right? Or your bartender knows what, this new beer that just came out, and the bartender knows that you're definitely going to like it, or the bartender knows that the scotch that you just got in. So it's almost similar to that at this point, right? It's just building that relationship and kind of already knowing, well, this client is going through this in the next couple of months. I know this product is coming out from this manufacturer the next couple of months. This will perfectly align with them. So you're not really wasting a lot of time of trying to figure out the whole workflow because you're not familiar with it, right? So you just hit the ground running if we have that type of relationship. And I think this is similar to what I think the article that Charmaine had earlier in the week about getting in front of people that you normally don't get in front of when talking about audio visual. So if I have a relationship with the audio visual guy, and then because we have an enterprise relationship now, I'm going to now venture out to other people in other departments because I'm spending more time with you. This allows me to then figure out additional pieces that the main AV manager might have missed because of how busy they are, that, the person in the laboratory section needs a more high definition camera or a more higher width screen because they're looking at so many microscopes at one time, right? Because you build that relationship and now you're getting more data that you can use to provide the best products and the best service you can for them.
I honestly didn't even consider that. Yeah, because here's the thing. So walk through the scenario with me. Let's assume it's a regular year and we all went to trade shows, right? You've got these folks, these AV techs, these men and women AV pros that are embedded. They go to Infocom, they go to ISE, and they come back and say, you know what, that project that we were talking about, I just saw something. It's going to be ready in 2 months. Your project doesn't start until 4. We're groovy. And yeah, holy cow. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
It's just, because there's just so much information out there. And I'm realizing this now, working for AVI-SPL, of how beneficial I was when I worked for Crestron and when people reached out to me and I just knew that knowledge at the drop of a dime, because there's just so much technology in the AV world. There's so much technology in the IT world. There's so much just technology. It's impossible for one person or a group of people to know everything. So why not build a family of technologists in a group and then have the best solution for your client, and then everyone's happy, and then you build that rapport. And then with that, right, if I'm an enterprise relationship manager and I'm working with a group, I do a good job, that person brings it all the way up to the CIO. That CIO then has a meeting with another CIO during their monthly get together. Hey, did you know that AVI-SPL does this thing? You should look into that. Boom, more revenue. It's just, that's just the way communication goes. So I think that's just a win-win situation for everybody in that sense.
Absolutely. All right. Our last story here comes to us from Sound and Communications and an old friend, Tom LeBlanc, who is now with NSCA, not with Commercial Integrator anymore. It used to be for years and years and years. Tom writes about the areas of business transitions that integrators should focus. rebuilding revenue and cash flow, emerging technologies, litigation readiness, that is a huge one, job site logistics, recalibrating business processes, and scaling up and scaling down. Unfortunately, that is part of it. Nick, let's start with you on this. Reading Tom's article, NSCA does a really good job of helping their integrators and their dealers not only kind of see some of the forecasting. They have one of the best economists, at least in the industry, in my 2 cents, my humble opinion. But also they look at a lot of the state regulations and legal ramifications of bringing people back to work. What other areas? I'm not saying that Tom missed anything, but what, from your experience, what other areas would you expect business owners and integrators to kind of focus on to help their business?
Sure. I think, it as far as people coming back to work, I think we've hit a lot of it as far as just the efficiency there. I think we've talked a lot about how this is going to impact IT and HR. I think that's a huge thing, because it's Victoria said something that really resonated with me about, individual network connections and things like that for people at home. And that's been a big pain point just for us in general. I mean, I think, keying in on and really getting this efficiency going back in, that's going to be that's a big question mark right now. And it's yet to really be determined how that's going to get done. So I think that's really the main focus at this point. As far as, these integrators that are used to these box sales or these things, in this low voltage realm, I think shifting into more of a service oriented model, we're going to see that pivot point, as this article talks about, quite a bit, because that it's not really about, that MRR capture. It's also about the relationship capture, right? So when you're going into, let's say, for example, a 36-month hardware as a service, true subscription, that you have flexibility, where, as Sharath mentioned before, there's going to be so much innovation, and we're already seeing it. We before we started this, we were chatting a little bit about Yamaha and some things like that. We're going to see this trend, and these manufacturers push the envelope of innovation, and AV is such a large scale. It's going to be a scramble to pick up with that. And I think, pivoting into that service model is going to be so important. Not only just for that MRR, but for those long-term customer relationships. And I think that's going to be part of this, these efforts here. This article highlights a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've picked up a Commercial Integrator magazine or went to a NSCA event in the last 9 years, you've heard them talk about service once or twice, or recurring revenue. Not picking on you, just pointing out a fact. Sharath, same kind of question here is what are the areas that if an integrator is listening to this on a Monday morning going into work, and she is facing like what a lot of folks are facing, right? What's the first or second area that they should focus on?
I think it's really about reevaluating your clients that you already have engaged with and understanding where they're going in the future, because everyone's portfolio has changed, and then figuring out what's coming into that, and then also figuring out where can we find new opportunities to bring into. I mean, if you were so used to just doing commercial projects, now one thing that came to mind is that everyone's working from home. So now why not team up with residential companies that do resi projects like Control4 and Savant, because half the time they're doing their Wi-Fi infrastructure anyway. So why not reach out to a resi company and say, hey, for all of your resi customers, just reach out and see if they need any high-end commercial stuff in their home offices now, right? It's thinking outside of the box. I mean, that's the only way anyone's going to survive, is thinking outside of the box and figuring out how to get more clients in and how to build more relationships. What other events can I go to outside of the AV world? Should I maybe start attending IT events? Should I start attending music recording studio events? Should I start going to, the beer convention and meet with, figure out what kind of business they do, right? I think when I started at Crestron, there's only two main verticals that everyone keeps talking about, and that's enterprise and education, right? And then all the other verticals kind of just, yeah, they're there. We kind of dabble in that, but I don't think you can no longer dabble. I think you have to reach out to those and make those verticals higher than your normal commercial and educational, because they're going to keep going no matter what. But if you need to start thinking outside of the box, what other verticals are out there? So it's pivoting, really.
Victoria, Sharath brings up something that I kind of I've danced around a couple of times in the last couple of months, and I've said it like once or twice. This might be a pivotal point for folks in North America, AV technology folks. Parts of Europe, they're already doing, you're not a commercial dealer, you're not a residential dealer, you're a dealer, you're an AV technology specialist. And if you happen to put it in somebody's house, groovy. If you happen to put it in their office, groovy. We might be getting there. And I'll expound more on this, but does that make sense? Is it going to be one of these things where we're going to be able to look and say, it doesn't matter where we are. CEDIA has and their dealers have been doing light commercial for over 10 years now, since the last downturn. Is it where now the commercial folks here in the States are going to start looking at folks' homes and their home offices? Maybe they restrict themselves to that, but putting in what would used to have been considered, commercial or pro AV gear.
Yeah, I could see that, and I definitely have seen those industries merging more and more. And also, interestingly, it's like Nick said, with the technology advancements, Zoom had, I don't know the exact figure, but millions more users come on because of the pandemic. And so that forced them to then give upgrades to security, give upgrades to features, and so it just advances the technology. And as people start to use these technologies in their home, they're going to want that same experience at work. We've been saying this for years, and for the longest time it was the opposite, right? The commercial drove the resi, but now the resi drives the commercial. Just like we've talked about, people want Alexa in their boardroom, and I won't get into why that's a bad idea. But yeah, I definitely see the crossovers for sure. But I will say this, that commercial integrators need to. You can't just start going in all types of directions. You need to stick with what you know and do that really, really well. Once you get to that point, then you can start looking at, how to expand. And I think one of the biggest things is bringing value to your existing clients and bringing value in creative ways. Partnering up with, an architect, partnering up with even a psychologist to talk about how do people work, how do people learn, because different people learn in different ways. And there are so many services that we can offer that either interface with technology or touch technology somehow, that where we can bring value to our clients in new ways that we can charge whatever we want for. Who cares if we are not making margin on our hardware? Our services are so valuable to these clients that it's going to make them so much more productive. They're going to save millions of dollars. They're willing to give us some of those savings, some of that money that they're saving in order to be more productive and to move forward.
That is a great way to end it. Thank you so much. Before I say goodbye to my guest, I do want to mention one thing. AVIXA this week announced reorganization with the impact of the pandemic. In a letter to its members late Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, AVIXA revealed that a number of the organization's staff had been let go due to the pandemic and its impact on the AV industry. Mr. Labuscas, Dave Labuscas, CEO of AVIXA, said, quote unquote, "While difficult to act on, these changes must position AVIXA to support our industry in 2021 and beyond. If we've learned any lessons in 2020, one of them is that we cannot clearly anticipate all futures. We don't know when trade shows will come back, and we don't know what they will look like when they do. But we do know that this industry will continue to grow in importance and vitality." I didn't say that to have a conversation about it. I did say that to say that there's a number of really great folks that used to work at AVIXA that are looking for jobs right now. So if you don't know any, contact me, Tim at AVNation.tv. and I'll connect you with them. So our best to them, and honestly our best to Avixa too. They had to make a really hard choice, hard decision. The folks that are still left there, they've got to deal with some stuff. The folks that are now out of work, they have to deal with being out of work. So our best to them, both folks that are still at Avixa and the ones looking for jobs. So thank you all so much for joining us. Victoria Ferrari from Conference Technologies. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome. People can follow me on Twitter if you want, Victoria0429.
All right, very good. Sharath, thank you, sir, and congratulations on the new gig and the new digs. How do people get a hold of you?
Twitter, Sharath S. Abraham, and then LinkedIn as well. New chutney videos are every couple of weeks now, so those are back. So it keeps me busy on the weekends.
Right. Chutney is his dog, just for the record. So.
Oh yeah, Chutney is my dog, the AV industry's dog at this point.
Absolutely. Mr. Nick, thank you, sir. How do people get a hold of you or Starin?
Yeah, Tim, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. You can always reach me on LinkedIn. Really, it's the best place. So search me there. You can visit Starin, www.starin.biz. If you want to talk to my team Zoom at starin.biz.
All right, very good. For us, don't follow me on the Twitters because the Blues are really, really not acting like that they've been playing hockey in a couple of years. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find programs like this and a host of others, including our other weekly program, ResiWeek. My buddy Matt Scott looks at the residential side of the industry. We have a daily program called the Daily Download and a number of monthlies. Also, while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and ResiWeek and all the others. So check all of that out and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.